to the Alacate Show, starring me, Alacate. Today, one of my guests is one of my very good friends, a very distinguished individual. We went to school together, and I'm proud to have him here on the show today as my guest. Let me introduce you to my good friend, my brethren, Kevin Joseph Rankin. How you doing, boss?
Nice to be here.
Good. You look sharp, man.
Thank you.
You look like you know what I mean?
Well, you know I try a little bit.
You try, okay, man. Alright, so, you know what we do on the show is that we are all about positivity and stuff. And, we have similar backgrounds. So tell everybody some of your interests a little bit before we divulge into some topics.
Well, my interest is simple. I love, first and foremost, community. I love, I'm into education, international affairs, and yeah, that basically encompasses everything. So.
Okay, that's good. I also know you're a big soccer fan too.
Well, yes, I am into soccer. Chelsea, everyone.
Chelsea, that's your favorite team.
And Real Madrid.
And Real Madrid. I'm a Barcelona and I'm an AC Milan fan, so we would not agree on anything. All right. So something I want to ask you, seeing that I know to a lot of people is that Mr. Rankin, he serves in the U.S. military. So let me just get this off the bat one time. Why do you do what you do?
Well, for me, it's coming up as a kid. I always wanted to be in the military, and while I was in college, BMCC, I wanted to be in the military, but I didn't want to be full time because I wanted to finish college. But then I did my research and I found out about the reserve component, in that you can serve in the military and at the same time pursue your educational goals. And I thought that was an excellent opportunity, and I jumped in. I jumped on it, and it's been a very good experience so far. The military for me, it's a really friendly environment in that the camaraderie is second to none. At least where I have been, there's no white, there's no black, there's no yellow, but the only color in the army is green.
All right. I hear that, man. The only color that matters is green. I hope you all see that and take note of that. Okay, what's your rank, by the way?
Well, specialist is, for now, it's a E4.
E4.
Enlisted, but I have aspirations to become a commissioned officer, and now that I'm on the verge of obtaining my degree, my 4-year degree, that is, it would become a reality.
Okay, that's good, and I wish you the best of luck with that. So you're not only dealing with your community, you're dealing with the global community. You know what I mean? And I respect that. At the end of the day, I respect that. I always thought you were cool. I just got a little more respect for you, okay? Something else I wanted to ask you was, because you say you were involved in community. Tell me a little bit about your community projects. Like, what have you been involved in, what you plan to be involved in, what you would like to be involved in any order?
Well, in the community, I did an internship for Gail Brewer, and that's on the Upper West Side. Mm-hmm. And the internship, it meant that one day I would have been in the legislative office and the next day in the district office. And for me, the district office is where I got a lot of satisfaction, because it was based within the community and it was geared towards serving the people of that community. So on a daily basis, you would have people coming in, of all different backgrounds with various problems, and it was my job as the legislative aide there to help them to troubleshoot these problems, whether it be in person, on the phone, connecting them to the right agencies, and that for me was one of the things that I did in the community. And I plan also to get involved with the community board. Every community has a community board, and to become involved in local politics that is geared towards the community, and not Democrat or Republican per se, but because at the end of the day it's about the people. And when we strip
We the people, by the people, of the people.
And when we strip away all the titles and the partisanship, there is the people, and that's what I would like to become.
So let me ask you a question. Are we looking at Kevin Rankin running for mayor 2020?
I mean, the sky's the limit, but you know, if you know my desire to serve takes me there, hey, I'll do it.
Okay, I'm just letting you know, you'll get my vote.
Thank you.
You're gonna get my vote because looking back, you look at politics, and politics is something that a lot of people don't want to stay in their hands with. Do you think, by you entering the politics, do you think you can have the change you want to affect in the society?
Well, for one, I think that I can make a positive impact in that I have a very unique background, coming from Trinidad, coming from a diverse culture, knowing what it is at every level. I've been around, poor, the medium class, the rich. So I think, I would bring a very objective outlook. And I believe that I have a solid mind. I believe that, I'm a moderate person, and I think that I can make a positive contribution.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's good. Something that we both shared, because when I was younger, I used to actually represented Trinidad in Global Young Leaders Conference, which is effectively a model UN, okay? And there's some things that I learned there about like international policy and stuff like that. Now, I know normally you get to like local politics, but you also too have had some experience in a mock UN. Of course, the issues that I was facing when I was there was not like a major issue. Terrorism was now coming up. It was more global warming was our issue at that time. What do you think is the most pressing issue for like a mock UN/UN to deal with?
Well, first of all, I just would like to say that although I am really interested in the local community, I also have interest in the global, on a global scale as well. And there is not one particular issue that's most pressing. There are a lot of issues. We still have inequality, on many different scales. We still have, you mentioned when you were coming up that the biggest problem was global warming. Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'm sorry to break it to you, but global warming still is a problem.
So you mean all that work I did in the past, nobody solved this stuff as yet?
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
So there are a lot of problems. There are a lot of pressing issues, but I think the global community is trying to come together, because at the end of the day, the solution is hidden in unity. If we can unite, if we can come to a consensus, then I think we can bring about good solutions. I have participated in a model UN for Hunter College. By the way, Hunter College has an excellent team. We won a couple of awards. I did one last semester in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. I did one this semester right here in New York. And the first time we represented the IAEA, the International Energy Atomic Agency, and this time we were in the General Assembly. And we used real issues. And so the first time we did the Iranian conflict with nuclear weapons, and this time we did the sustainable development. So those are some of the issues that that we are faced with. And the cool part about Model UN is that we are not allowed to make up any argument or make up any solutions that are foreign to that country, but we have to use that country's history. We have to do a lot of research on their resources, their politics, their everything, and try to argue like they would argue.
So in the beginning you were saying that you look at things from the global community. How do how would you say it's possible to get countries like that have been usually closed out to the world, such as North Korea and like Iran, to be more open to international dialogue and policy?
Well, there is, it's a conversation, and the conversation takes two. And I think the Western countries, we should do as we have been doing, is soliciting discussion, conversation. And as far as I'm concerned, it's incumbent on those countries, the Irans and the North Koreas, to entertain these discussions. So at the end of the day, it's
I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but you know that talking to North Korea, that's a whole nother, ball of fire.
But where there is a conversation, there's a will, there's a way.
Okay, not to get too controversial, well, you know what's going on there now and stuff like that.
Yes.
And this will be the last question on like international relations and stuff like that. How, if you were in a position, based on your mock UN experience and stuff, what would be your position to take towards the dialogue?
Well, at the end of the day, they all sign. There are a lot of treaties out there. There are a lot of documents, that countries sign, saying that they would not do this, they would not do that.
Well, North Korea never signed a treaty. They just signed a peace agreement, but they refused to call it a treaty. An armistice agreement, actually.
But at the end of the day, the biggest thing would be to have discussions and to have both parties agree on something that's convenient and that's beneficial for both parties, something that would bring about peace. And I'm sure that every single country in the world would love peace.
I agree with that. I would love peace. Would you love peace?
I love peace.
Okay. All right, let me come back to like domestic affairs. Recently, when I was talking to you a couple of weeks ago, you went on a trip to DC and you dealt with different communities. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I had worked with the Friedlander group for a little bit, and we did an event in DC. The event, it was entitled Iron Dome Congressional Tribute Event. Basically, what this event was about, it meant bringing senators, bringing congressmen, ambassadors, even the former CIA director, James Woolsey, was there, bringing people who are very enthusiastic about peace, bringing them together in one room to pay tribute to Congress for their role in helping to install Iron Dome in Israel. I'm sure you've heard just recently that there were a lot of rockets fired in southern Israel, and it was intercepted by this new thing called Iron Dome, this missile defense system. And whether or not you are on this side or that side, let's forget the partisanship, but just let's think about the results. The results was that missiles were intercepted, which meant that civilians were not killed, which meant that there was no room for retaliation, where this military had to go over there to see who fired these rockets. So there was no bloodshed, and at the end of the day, it's about peace, and that's why we did that.
So the effort in Washington was focused on, once again, international relations, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, because when I was checking up some information, I saw that you were engaging in the Jewish community, which is, I think is a great thing, because, me personally, like when I used to do my music and stuff like that, which I know you used to like, right? I do believe in the people should integrate and intermix with one another, so that way we get an understanding. Talk about how was your experience as someone in that community? Because I've never had that experience.
Well, people like to create all these groups and subgroups.
Stereotypes.
By saying this community, that community. And for me, it's just the community. And okay, so I worked with, as you said, the Jewish community in the Iron Dome Congressional Tribute event. Before that, even one of my best friends is Jewish, but I don't like to see that. I don't like to see the titles. I like to see it that this is part of the community. But it was a really, nevertheless, it was a very interesting experience because I got to learn a lot about them, and they were able to learn a lot about me, and I think it helped to break down different barriers, whether or not, you know, big or small barriers, and I think that is good for entertaining conversation and ultimately the community.
All right, so let me ask you this question. Were there any stereotypes that was dispelled? Both on your side and on their side? Any stereotypes?
Well, for me, I mentioned earlier that I have Jewish friends, but I haven't had the opportunity to be around a lot of religious Jews, and this experience allowed me to be around them, to learn what their everyday life is like, and from that experience I can say that they're just normal people just like me and you. And
okay, well, I'm not debating they're normal people, but the reason I've asked is because I've been around Korean community, and some people might notice I could speak a little bit of Korean, not too much. So I met a Korean person, and they're speaking English to me, so I turn around and I respond to them, "Yoboseyo," and they're like, "You know Korean?" And I was like, "Yeah." So they started talking, and we started dialoguing, and you know what? They were shocked that a black person could know Korean.
Well, I learned a lot about this, in that we may have different accents, the color of our skin may be different, the hair may be different, the way we dress, but at the end of the day, we all share this in nature, in common, in that we are humans. At the most basic level, we are humans. They say Homo sapiens. We are human beings, and whether or not we speak different languages, or dialect may be different, or accent may be different. Once you enter into a new community, if you put aside just a couple of cultural and traditional differences, we all have the same goals, we all have the same fears, and there is not much difference.
Okay, so Kevon, let me ask you something. We both grew up same country, Trinidad. We both up here. You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. Let me ask you, how was life for you back home?
Well, life for me back home, it was fun, of course. It was really interesting in that as a kid coming up, first of all, I came up in an extended family where my grandmother and grandfather were the heads of the family.
Extended.
Which is why I call everyone was around. You know,
Okay.
I grew up with my cousins and everyone, like brothers and sisters, and that's why I call my grandfather, well, he's deceased now, and my grandmother, mommy and daddy, and I called my mother and father by their first names.
What?
It's really common in my family, and in growing up as a kid, I had a lot of friends, but I think it was a little difficult to relate to my peers 100% because of the fact that I grew up around a lot of senior people. So most of the people that I grew up around, they're dead, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that,
but you know, I think, you know, they made a really positive contribution to my life, because as a kid I was able to get wisdom from people who have already lived most of their lives.
well, okay, I can understand that, because like me, even though we grew up in two different parts. I grew up in Mova, you grew up in Labrie, right?
Yes.
I say it right? Or Labrie.
Labrie. Labrie is what you say when you're trying to sound like all eloquent, but as a real native of Labrie, we say Labrie.
Labrie.
Yeah.
So move it.
Labrie.
All right, because you know I grew up in a nuclear family. You know, taking you back to social studies. And, you know, I guess that's why we share the similar values, that my parents, they were more concerned, you know, with putting something in your stomach, keeping clothes on your back, keeping you dressed, making sure you can go to school and get good education, than buying the latest designer sneakers. So, you know, that's why I say that we could relate on that level, okay? And me too with my childhood experiences, because I grew up in not the best place in the world, you know, but yet still, people like me and you, we made it. We didn't get killed, we didn't get bombs down. No pit bull ever bite me. I don't know if a pit bull bite you.
No.
A dog ever bite you?
Potong. I was a kid.
A potong, okay.
Yeah.
That's just a long time I hear somebody say a potong, but
Common dog.
you know what I mean? Okay, I'm laughing at the fact you get bite, but the word potong. Okay, but how would you say, just growing up on an island, let's forget the family, the community, the family influence. How would you say growing up on an island affected your ambitions today? Were you satisfied with Trinidad is the world, or you wanted more?
Well, it's always been my mentality to want more, no matter where I am, what I'm doing. So long as it's not on the top, so long as it's not the best or the standard, I always want more. I'm always looking at reaching to the top. But I think growing up in the island, it helped me out in that it gave me like an entirely different perspective than the one here. People that I grew up around, they were successful, as I said, so I was able to draw from them. I was able to look at a particular standard to try to reach and excel. So I would say it's been positive.
Okay, speaking about the whole positive impact, because you know what, you know where I come from, Mova, it's not the most positive light. Do you think there are any other external factors? Because for me, let me give you my side of the story, because like, for me, I grew up and, you know, smelling marijuana wasn't, you know, forbidden. You know, it was like something you were accustomed to. You understand what I'm saying? You know that there were guns in the neighborhood, and yet still, I don't know, maybe because of where I grew up. I mean, even though I grew up in a pretty secure home in terms of mommy and daddy doing what they had to do, you know, there was dangers outside. How would you say you avoided those dangers?
Well, as a kid growing up, I think for the early part I was closely monitored. So the fact that I wasn't allowed
Closely monitored like a monitor lizard?
No, what we would say sheltered.
Sheltered.
In the early part of my life. So I wasn't able to go on beach for myself like the other kids. I wasn't able to stay out late. But as I grew older, I don't think where I grew up there was a lot of crime per se.
Lucky you, man.
But I think the biggest factor that, you know, that helped me to avoid a lot of negativity, because as a kid you made mistakes, everyone made mistakes, I made mistakes, but what really helped me to get away from that, to not make it to become a permanent part of me, are my teachers. Where I grew up, teachers really cared.
Okay.
They looked at you as their children, and even from primary school, secondary school, I still have in my heart lessons that they taught me. You know, things such as non-violence, things such as, you know, teamwork, working together, prayer, and all of these things that help to build a community. I think that was the biggest thing for me, my teachers. My parents and grandparents, they were positive influences as well. But when you go out the house, that's where it can make or break a child, and I think my teachers did a really good job.
So you would say you turned out to be a good young man, based on your parents' estimation, grandparents' estimation of yourself?
Well, I have made mistakes in my life.
Well, I mean, let's forget about the mistakes, because, you know, we on the Alacate Show, we don't judge anybody. We don't try to find out about, you know, felonies or anything like that.
No.
I've
never been.
You know,
I've never been in with the law or anything like that. I'm saying I have made mistakes in that, you know, in times where I should have taken things such as school even more serious. I slacked off at certain times in my life, but there are teachers and even people in the community who have worked with me to help me to get back on track, and taking their advice and keeping their advice in my heart. And every day I think it worked in my benefit. It worked in my favor, and I think I am on the road to success.
Okay, well, I think you're on the road to success. I think we're all on the road to success here. Every guest that we bring on the Alacate Show, you know, is about positivity, and that's what you have showed us today. Well, we here at the Alacate Show, like my good friend Mr. Rankin, what we do is that we ask our guests to leave a quote with us. Something inspirational, something they got to come up with it from the top of their head. Now, he didn't know this was going to be done at the moment, so this is going to be totally spontaneous. Okay? So, Mr. Rankin is going to leave a quote, and I'm going to give him a quote. Of course, I already know what I'm going to say, so I'm just going to see how good he is on the sport. And you've been a good sport. You've been a good sport.
Oh, you put me on the spot right here.
Yeah, I got to put you on the spot, man, you know. Yeah, I put you on the spot.
Well, what I would basically say, it goes back to everything that we mentioned. For me, just as gas or fuel is essential for a car to function properly, I believe that compassion and service is equally essential for a community and ultimately the world to function properly.
Oh, wow. You know what, folks, that was deep. That was deep. But, you know, of course, as is the Alacate Show, I got to come back with something. So I'm not going to go as deep, but this is what I'm going to say. I haven't said this in like 10 years or so. The last time I said it, I was in high school. So this is what I'm going to say. Aim for the stars, and on your way up, you're going to touch the coconut tree. But, you know, you catch the point I'm making is that, you know, aim for the highest, and at the end of the day, you're going to make some kind of progress. You know? Kevon, Mr. Rankin, it's been a pleasure, man. I look forward to having you again. Just before we go, let me ask you a quick question. Who do you think going to win Champions League?
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich? I think, well, if they win tomorrow, you know, they probably would win. Anyhow, Mr. Rankin, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm glad to have you here, man. It's nice when you can have one of your good friends come out to your show. All right, so thank you all for watching the Alacate Show with me and my good friend, E6 it is?
E4.
E4, sorry.
Specialist.
E4 specialist in the US military, Kevon Joseph Rankin. This is Alacate telling you to be safe and to keep the love.